We are back in Genesis chapter 3, taking a look at verse 3, and in the prior video we looked at verse 2, which includes the woman's initial response to the serpent about which trees they can eat from within the garden, and now we're going to dial in on a particular prohibition about one particular tree. Apa de karpu tu Zulu, ha esten in meso tu paradesu, epen ha theos u phageste ap autu, ude me hapseste autu. Hina me apathaneta. We'll begin with this transition here, the apa de. Notice the post-positive de. Now, on the one hand, you could, of course, translate this with but it really is a contrastive advancement of what she's trying to say. She says, well, okay, on the one hand, there's certain trees that we can eat from, but on the other hand, there is one that we can't. And so it is marking a step forward in the narrative. And she's actually going to describe a couple things about this tree before she gets into the specific prohibition. So this is kind of from a discourse perspective sort of setup. So, but, apa, and then it's karpu here. That's from karpas. Of course, apa here taking the genitive. That is fruit, as we've seen a few times before. And it's the fruit of the Zulu, that is Zulan, which is tree. But from the fruit of a tree. And then we have a relative pronoun followed by esten. This is the neuter nominative relative pronoun. It is modifying not karpas, which is masculine. It's modifying Zulan because Zulan is neuter. So it's the tree which, and then is there with esten. In meso, that typically can be translated either in the midst of or perhaps in the middle of. And it's in the middle of tu paradesu. This is garden, as we have seen previously. So she's dialing into a tree that's in the middle of the garden. And here's what she says that God says. Epen hatheos, God said, u phageste. Notice it's negated here. Phageste is from estheo. There is a spelling change from estheo with the ste ending there. This is a second plural future middle indicative. So you shall not eat, or you will not eat, from it, referring back to the relative pronoun, which is really referring back to the Zulan here. You shall not eat from that particular tree. And then ude me, this is a strong contrast, nor, followed by a negated verb here, hapseste. And this is from hapto, and you might know this just from the English use of that root form, like for haptics and so forth. This means for touch, or it means touch. With the ste ending here, and there's a square of stops under the hood where the P has collided with an S to give you a psi. This is a second plural aorist middle subjunctive, actually, because it's you also have a lengthening of the connecting vowel here, and it's subjunctive because of the negated may. Whereas we had a future here with the negator u. So you shall not, or certainly not, touch it, autu. And then she has a sort of warning attached to that. Hina me, so that not, or something like lest. It's idiomatic there. Apathaneta. Notice a te ending and a spelling change. Apathan is the stem change of apathnesko, which means to die. And so this is once again a second plural here with the te ending, and it's an aorist active subjunctive because, again, the lengthening of the connecting vowel, and it's going to be subjunctive because of the hina plus may. So you shall not touch it, lest y'all, plural, die. Now, what's she doing here with the commandment of the Lord? We saw in the prior video that she has slightly distorted Genesis 2:16, and now we can actually do a little bit of a deep dive on what she's doing here with Genesis 2:17. So on the left, we have Genesis 3:3, and then we're hearkening back to the prior chapter. So things start out well. Apa de karpu tu Zulu, that actually matches up really quite nicely. But then she had described it as the tree that's in the middle of the garden. Of course, the original commandment is the tree that is of the knowledge of kalan kai paneron, good and evil. That's not too much of a big deal. She's sort of describing it physically, I suppose. She, of course, adds the God said. That's fine. She's quoting him. And then she begins with u phageste, and that's fine. That matches. And then apal tu, from it, that matches. So far, so good. This is where it gets kind of interesting. Notice the ude me hapseste autu. You shall not touch it. That is not in the original commandment. She has added to the commandment of the Lord. Of course, that gets at our common human condition. We have a prohibition of the Lord, then often in the way we practice it, we might add little things to it to in some sense, exacerbate our problem, I suppose. Maybe it gets at the inner legalism in the hearts of us all. So she's adding that bit, almost in a sense to distort the commandment. She does, in a sense, pick up on the lest you die from the apothenon here. And so that part's fine. So this addition there of do not touch it, plus a couple other little tweaks here. It's quite interesting that she hasn't quite gotten the full picture of the original commandment from the Lord. And we'll see that there's going to be a whole cascade of blame that flows from this. She's going to blame or she's going to blame the serpent, and Adam's going to blame her, and it's all going to become quite a mess here in the garden. But this is enough for today from Genesis 3:3.